the day of my graduation, when I was walking down to get my diploma, guess what? I found out I couldn't walk. I was on crutches that day. I had to use a wheelchair. My legs were swollen. My friends were like, "What happened to you?" Prior to that, I was pregnant in my last semester. So everybody was just like, "We knew you to be pregnant, but now you're in crutches. What's going on?"
Hi, welcome back to the Just Start podcast. It is so amazing to be with you once again. Every time I'm with you, every time I bring these conversations, I feel like I'm on top of the world, because I'm driving these conversations. You're sitting down there either on your bed or you're lying down on your bed or you're sitting on a couch or you're with some of your friends and you're watching me. And I feel like I couldn't be doing anything better than having your attention right now and sharing some of these conversations and these thoughts with you at this point. Thank you so much for constantly rooting for us. Thank you so much for always tuning in, always joining us every week as we share these interesting episodes and have conversations with the beautiful, amazing guests that we have every single time. And you know the drill, right? If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, like, share this with as many people as possible because I have an amazing episode for you today. All right, so let's get to it. My guest today, this is an episode I've been looking forward to actually, and for many reasons, and you'll find out just in a bit. I know I'm a bit giddy today. It's because I'm really excited to be back. All right, so my guest today is someone whose work actually involves a lot of health conversations, and I know that health is something that touches everybody. But also, she's been able to convert that health conversation or that place of her passion for health into a thriving business. And those are some of the things we're going to be listening to today. She's a holistic health practitioner. And if you don't know what that is, you're about to find out. Please make welcome with me Mrs. Modupe Aiyegbusi, the founder of Mays Wholistic Health.
Hello.
It's good to have you here today,
Thank
ma'am.
you so much.
Thank you
good to be here.
Thank you for honoring our invitation. I've been looking forward to this, like I said earlier.
I'm bad.
So let's get straight into it. Before Mays and before the whole conversation of holistic health, which we would actually talk about, because some people need to know what holistic health is about, right? Mm-hmm. But before all of that, who was Modupe?
Well, she was a mom.
Okay.
She was she was a student. She went to school for social work, believe it or not. Ooh. Yeah, I did my master's in social work, mental health, to be related, to be specific. Mm-hmm. And I was an ambitious person. I wanted to go and conquer the world of social work.
Interesting.
I'm a mom of 3 kids. And at that time, that was my goal. That was my passion. I wanted to help as many people that were broken through social work. Mm-hmm. So that was me before everything. Mm-hmm. And just right after my graduation, after my service year or my practical year, when I was supposed to launch into my dream, that was when everything happened.
What was the everything that happened?
Oh, well, so my graduation, the day of my graduation, when I was walking down to get my diploma, guess what? I found out I couldn't walk. I was on crutches that day. I had to use a wheelchair. My legs were swollen. My friends were like, "What happened to you?" Prior to that, I was pregnant in my last semester. So everybody was just like, "We knew you to be pregnant, but now you're in crutches. What's going on?" And just right after my graduation, that was when I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis.
Wow.
Yeah, so it escalated pretty fast. My doctors was like, it's one of the worst cases they had, my rheumatologist. So it went from diagnosis to being crippled to being bedridden and then down the drain. But I'm here today, so.
Okay, so so what then happened? How are you here? Like, you walked all the way here. Like you walked up the
Yeah,
stairs. You
right.
came here. You're fit and good. What happened?
So now the thing about rheumatoid arthritis, okay, for some people that don't know, what it does is that it damages your joints over time. Like it can be very aggressive for some people. For some people, it might be slow, so they might not have damage until 10 years. For me, it was within 2 years. But what I was on biologics, normally they would give you like biologics are almost like chemotherapy, but not exactly chemotherapy. I was on biologics, methotrexate, all the names that you need to help you slow down the progression of the disease. But for me, it didn't work. So it will work for 6 months, and after that, I'll have a massive flare up. My doctors will have to change it, or my liver enzymes will start climbing. They'll have to switch medication, And the last one I was on was kind of a new drug, and it was like, okay, let's hope that this will work. So I did that and nothing happened. And then I was desperate. I went to a functional doctor. I had to work my rheumatologist had to work with the functional doctor because they didn't want any liabilities on their hands. And the guy was just like, you know what? We need to look at your gut health first. That's the first thing we need to pay attention to. I was like, my gut health. What does my gut health have? When you think gut health, you think my intestine or maybe, going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I was like, what does that have to do with my bones and my joints? And he's like, well, let's see what happens there. And then he was like, you need to also pay attention to your emotions. I was like, my emotions? Like, I really doubted that he knew what he was saying. But lo and behold, by the time he started working with me, I had to change my diet. I lost 47 pounds in 3 months. I was like a skeleton. I had to go on a water fast for 21 days. I didn't eat anything
For 21
for
days.
21 days. And while you're doing this, I'm being monitored by my doctor.
Okay.
They're taking my vitals daily. They're taking my blood every other day, and all of these things were just to calm down the inflammation, because the inflammation was so bad that if you gave me a hug, I'll start crying. Like if my husband moved on the bed, just adjusted, oh my God, I would be screaming in pain.
Oh my.
So it was so bad that I remember New Year's Day, my kids came to give me a hug and say Happy New Year. My goodness, I started crying. And my husband was like, what happened? I was like, I'm in pain. So it was that bad. But when you have something that bad, you are going to be very desperate. If it was that bad, imagine I couldn't hold my phone, I couldn't pick up, I couldn't drive. Like raising up my hands was a problem. So I needed something to be as drastic as the disease was progressing. So that was why I had to do the fast. I had to stop eating. My doctor wanted to watch what was triggering the inflammation, what foods were causing more flare-ups for me. And then, funny enough, after that period, I went back on medication, and the medication for the first time, it worked. Oh, wow. So I think that's when I started thinking that there's something related. How come?
It wasn't working before.
Exactly. And now for the first time, I was able to stay on one medication for at least 1 year before they switched it to another. So that was my story. And that was when I began to really dig deep and, question things like, if they say medication was supposed to slow it down, it didn't. I started treating my gut health, and then the medication stuck for 1 year. So what could be going on in my gut that maybe could be a trigger to this autoimmune disease? And that's when I started digging into I went into the rabbit hole. I went back to school. I started educating myself about gut health and the essence of having, an intact or a thriving gut microbiome. Your gut is like your immune system. I'd always tell new moms, the best gift you can give your child is a healthy gut, because it will help them with stress. It would help them with, all sorts of diseases. Like you would bounce back better if you have healthy gut microbiome.
So you converted this painful, stressful, crazy experience into your new life's purpose, going from social work into holistic health. I've put an asterisk on that gut health because we're going to come to it. I really want to hear a lot about it. But at what point did you now say, I'm going to do this as a profession and I'm going to make a business out of it?
So it didn't naturally start out as a business. After I started my healing journey, we moved to Nigeria. We're missionaries, and my husband is a missionary. And I think I thought that Nigeria would help me heal better. At the time we were in the US, I knew that it had to something about food will help me. And I thought about, well, if we're in Nigeria, we have more kind of close to organic, natural foods, compared to what I was getting in the US. And the truth is that, yeah, like when I remember a time that I made stew with tomatoes in the US, I could not tolerate it. That means after I took it, I had a massive flare up. My hands were hurting. And then I came to Nigeria and I was eating tomatoes and I was fine. So tell me that food doesn't have anything to do with it, So that was when I started looking deeper. And I remember, because I had spent quite a lot of money buying different things just to help me, with pain and everything. And I remember when I came to Nigeria, I was like, I saw my friends and their children. And a 2-year-old in the hospital for 2 months, taking antibiotics. Nothing wrong with antibiotics. It's just that introducing it to a child that young, I know what it does. It destroys your gut microbiome,
Wow.
So I was like, wait, let me give you something that I have and see if he had pneumonia. Now, I shared with her one of the things I was using for myself. And within 2 weeks, they cleared him out of the hospital. By then, he had been in the hospital going back like every 2 months, being admitted as a 2-year-old child. So I gave it to them. Within a week, he was out. Within 2 weeks, the whole pneumonia cleared. They cleared him, clean bill of. And she's like, I don't know what you gave me, but it worked. I was like, oh, okay. So I just started sharing it with my friends. And then one of my friends came in, introduced another person to me. She's like, I've not been able to sleep. I have high blood pressure, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, just hold on. Let me do this thing that I do for myself to help with pain. So I ran a therapy session in my house at the time. And in fact, they her and her husband fell asleep on the couch.
Wow.
So by the time she sent me a message, she's like, sis, I don't know what you did, but my BP has been stable. My husband that doesn't sleep at night is sleeping through the night. In fact, he slept through the night and then slept again, like slept when he got back home, slept through the night. And he's just like, what did you do? So I was like, well, it's just therapists that I have and they help me with this. And she's like, no, you don't understand what you have. You need to share it with the world. So that was it. I just started sharing it with people. And then they were like, we will pay you for this because it is that good. And it now became Mays Wholistic Health, what it is today.
Wow. So the concept of holistic health, what exactly is it?
So holistic health focuses on your whole body. Now, body-mind connection. And I thank God I did social work in mental health because this is where that plays in. How that your mind can affect your body, your emotions can affect your physiology, and also vice versa. All right. So I've seen people who are depressed come out of depression because we fixed their gut health. And I've seen people, flip it up the other way around as well. Like just start dealing with root cause trauma in the body. And then all of a sudden they can tolerate supplements or food better. So again, there's a research that shows that 80% of diseases comes from the emotions. So I'm working it backwards. If 80% of diseases start from the emotions, why don't we do that where we are not just looking at the symptoms? That is the difference between holistic health and conventional health. You're not just looking at the symptoms now, you're looking at the root causes. What could be the root cause of whatever is going on? All right. So, like, for example, me as a person, I remember that when I started doing the work on my own self, and of course, I worked with somebody to help me heal my body and my mind. One of the things that came up for me was unforgiveness. I had a lot of issues with, holding on to bitterness, holding on to things that, and if you look at what rheumatoid arthritis is, it's like it kind of shrivels your bones. There's a part in the Bible that talks about
this thing is making sense now. As you just said, there's a part in the Bible. I'm just like, wait a minute.
Yep. So
what you mean to tell me is that your body stores these emotions, and then these emotions that your body has stored serve as maybe a form of gateway.
Yes. Yes. So we have, like, you cannot separate them. And unfortunately, that's why conventional medicine fails many people. Because if you're thinking of the root cause of some certain diseases, for example, one of the root causes of thyroid issues, people that don't speak up, people that suppress what they really have to say. You have a truth to tell, but you don't say it. You now start having lumps or, stuff that's going on with your throat. Same thing with breast cancer. Like, we've seen a lot of correlations between anger and some of these diseases. So it's not just enough to treat the disease. You also have to look at what are you holding on to as a person. When our Bible says forgive, there's a reason why. Unforgiveness really does a number on the body, on the immune system. It does a lot of, it activates a lot of stress within your gut. So if we're looking at the mind-body connection, we're looking at you as a whole being, someone who has emotions, someone who has physical symptoms. What is the root?
My mind is just running through a lot of places right now because I'm thinking this root cause thing is a lot more serious than
Absolutely.
So you can actually fix health issues if you understand what the root cause is. Now, why do you think that this is not very popular with conventional health practitioners?
Yeah, I think up until now, we were focused more on symptoms than root cause. That's why you have doctors that are professionals in the eye, in the gut, in the joints and everything. But and I think that's giving the rise to holistic practitioners, where now we know that your symptoms are not just isolated to that area. Your symptoms have a root. So in more recent times, you have more people talking about holistic health, wellness, mind-body connection, root cause issues. Yeah, so I think it's coming up more now than it was before.
Now, in the work that you do as a business, have you faced a lot of skepticism? Because I'm just thinking about when this episode even goes out, somebody might be sitting and be thinking, this thing that this woman is saying, I don't really believe it like that. So, but have you faced skepticism around the work that you do, and how do you handle it?
So when I first started, I noticed that the people that came to me were people that traveled a lot because they understood it. It made sense. But now what we're having is that we're having people say, you know what, it's true. Like, I noticed that when I feel certain ways, something happens. It's just like when you feel anxious and then all of a sudden after eating, you want to quickly use the bathroom. And that thing that you put in your mouth is already in the bathroom. You're on the toilet. So people are beginning to pay more attention to what is going on in their bodies. And I think people are getting tired of just taking supplements and medication and not having it work, or going back over and over again to the same things, and everyone wants they want to be healed. They don't want to, be dependent on medication.
Yeah.
People are becoming more aware of the side effects of medication as well. So they are seeking out other things. So at first, yes, we had a lot of, oh my God, how does this work? But we had a lot more people that were more traveled, solicit our business. And now we have more people that are willing to try it out.
Yeah, I remember when I came to your place, and we started talking, and then we did the whole terahertz
Therapy.
I'm not going to lie, a part of me was still like, yo, is this thing like legit?
But how did you feel?
I felt great, actually. I felt very good after the therapy session. But I mean, just someone who's holding this magic wand looking thing over you, and then somehow that translates into you feeling a lot more relaxed. Like, how does this whole thing work?
Okay, so now, and funny enough, terahertz is like one of our very most basic therapies that we offer.
Yeah, so maybe we should even begin to talk about some of the therapies you offer.
Yeah.
But then we'll go into gut health, because I really want to. I really want us to talk about that. Yeah.
Okay, so we offer terahertz therapy. What does that do? Now, terahertz it's basically emitting some waves, but these waves are healthy. There are waves everywhere. Like between the microphone and the monitor, there's a wave, right? Your phone emits waves, microwave emits waves, but some of them are healthy, some of them are really dangerous. Now, the terahertz wave emits very healthy cells, very healthy waves that are very close to, or almost identical to the vibration of a healthy cell. All right, each cell has a wave and a vibration unit, frequency attached to it. So what it does is like it wakes up healthy cells. It increases stem cell production in your body. Everybody has stem cells naturally. All right. It allows those stem cells travel to the areas that are quote unquote very weak or, diseased, and it begins to create healing in those areas. All right. And that's why the moment you have one session, the first thing you notice that your sleep improves. You sleep very well that night. I
can attest to that.
The second thing you notice that pain begins to disappear. Then the more you do it, the more you see. So those are the things that I used for my own body.
During the time when you were recovering?
During the time I was recovering.
See.
For me, my goal was to get off medication. And I've been off medication for almost 4 years now.
Wow.
I'm not taking anything. Because they are expensive, dude. Like, so I was like, that was my goal. And I bought these tools to help me get there. So the terahertz helps with stem cell rejuvenation. We've had people come with high blood pressure issues. And the moment we start to work on them, it stabilizes, no more fluctuation. Why? It opens up the arteries in the body, allows microcirculation in the body. It does a lot of amazing things. Just that simple thing, you're receiving there. Yeah. We've had people come with cataracts, and after a few sessions, they cancel their surgery because their eyes are repaired. Wow. We've had people, and we have testimonials for this, so many different types. We've had people with kidney issues, liver issues, and they begin to feel better. Why? The body is repairing itself. It's not the terahertz thing. The body is naturally built to repair. But when the energy in the body is low, then the body cannot do its work. When the toxins in the body is too much, the body needs to detoxify first before it has energy to heal. All right. We've had people with sickle cell anemia come, and there was a lady that came in, she was carried in. By the time she was done with 2 sessions, this lady walked out, climbed up the stairs to say hello to me in my office. That's how amazing it is. And you're like, how? It's the body. The body is built to heal. But if your body is malfunctioning, then it means that there are other things that are off. First of all, we need to look at the gut health. Then other things. What else is contaminating the body? Why can't the body do what it's meant to do?
So let's look at gut health right now, because I'm very interested in how can we keep people's bodies at that optimal place where it keeps healing itself,
Yeah.
and we're not in and out of the hospital back and forth like it's a, I almost wanted to say like they're sharing candy, but then I know that will get me into trouble with you right now. So because we're about to talk about the gut, all right. So, but gut health. What is this thing about gut health, and why is it so crucial to our overall holistic health?
So think about your body like a house, like this beautiful house. And then you eat here, you sleep here, you have your bath, you cook, you just keep putting, but you don't take out the trash. You don't empty the dustbin. What's going to happen eventually?
Yeah, you're going to live in a pigsty.
Exactly. Like it's going to be like hoarder's version, like you're going to have roaches coming after a while. Things will start deteriorating.
Yes.
Why? You're not taking care of your house. Your body is the same way, right? Many people have never done a parasite cleanse, and everybody has
And that's
parasites.
different from deworming.
It is different. It's different. Because parasites are not just in your stomach. They migrate to your brain, to your body, and everywhere else. They are in your blood. All right. So think about that. You need to do a parasite cleanse. You need to remove the things that are stealing minerals from you. All right. If these walls are broken, and then people are coming in to steal all this, after a while, you won't have the studio.
Yeah.
You will just have a shell of a building. That's why many people fall sick over and over again. Yeah. The integrity and the structure of their gut is like a building that is dilapidating. All right. So our goal is to build back that structure, remove the thieves that are stealing things from the gut, the toxins that have built over time, and all of a sudden, people's skin start to glow like they're using bleaching cream, and they are not. They start to age backwards. When I tell people my age, they're like, wait, what? And that's because, again, you're healing from inside out. When you heal your gut, you heal your mind as well. You heal your brain. Many women that have brain fog, you can't remember things. You feel tired all the time. It starts from your gut. So think about it, like you are literally building back the walls of your immune system, the walls of the integrity of your house. All right. We've had children that are on the spectrum, autistic children. All we did was clean out their gut, and they start speaking. They start talking. They're now verbal. They can now make eye contact. It's not magic. It's just go to the roots. Right? Start from where it all begins, and the body is smart enough to kick in to do what it can do. So
Now, what would you say are some of the biggest mistakes that the average person is making with respect to their gut health?
what you consume. Yeah, what you consume.
Like,
Should we go there?
let's go there. Let's go there, because we cannot come this far and just leave it. In theory. Let's delve in.
So what you consume, think about it. Your body, again, is a temple, right? But so far we've been sold lies. Like we've been sold that, you need milk and sugar every day to keep you energetic. There are some products that if I call their name now, we'll be in trouble. But when you look at the sugar content, they're marketed as healthy. But if you look at the sugar content, you're talking about, maybe like 8 cubes of sugar in one serving. Sugar is one of the biggest disruptors of your gut health. All right. First of all, it feeds candida. When you have candida overgrowth, you have a lot of issues. All right. So the things that you put in your body, are they processed foods? Are they engineered oils? All right. Are they things that you put in your body to make the food sweet, but they are there to block your brain receptors from knowing whether you're full or not? So these are things that we use daily. We've been sold lies. That's the truth. And if you think about it, there's a movie that you can watch to give you just a snippet of what happens in the food industry. They literally engineer food to taste certain ways, to look certain ways, to smell certain ways, to ignite certain receptors in your brain to make you crave those things. And that's why you can take a certain burger and you will not be full. You can take 5 of it and you will still not be satisfied. But go and eat our regular yam, cassava, things that we grow naturally. And just one serving, you feel full already. So it starts with what you put in your mouth. Food is either medicine or it's poison. Whenever you put a spoon in your mouth, ask yourself, am I healing my body or am I making my body sick? There are certain foods that when we eat, it doesn't digest for 4 days.
Like what?
There are types of noodles that we eat that does not digest.
Okay.
We've done research on them. They don't break down.
I started having on this example, and of course we're not calling any brand names, but on this example, I realized that. So I stopped eating noodles for a while, and then when I returned, I realized every single time I eat noodles, I feel very bloated.
Yeah.
I'm so bloated. I'm uncomfortable for like 2-3 days. So I agree with this thing that you're saying.
And that's inflammation. All right. Bloating is inflammation in the gut. There are certain breads that we buy. Please, if you buy bread and the bread does not rot. Remember when we're young, you buy bread and then you now see mold on it.
Yeah.
Now we don't see bread with mold. So what are we eating? That means there's something in that bread that is preserving it from rotting. But if mold will not eat it,
why should I?
Okay. So it stays in your body. What is it doing? Because whatever they put on it to even you won't even see sandflies or those ants that you would see them. Why? If the insects are smart enough to stay away from it, what do you think you're doing to your body when you consume it?
What are the other mistakes apart from what we're eating?
Well, the biggest one is our overuse of antibiotics.
Mm-hmm. My wife would like to hear that one now.
Yeah. Antibiotics are not bad because they were created for a reason. But when you abuse and overuse them, in fact, I've seen times where they give children antibiotics because they have catarrh. I'm like, please don't do that. Allow the body clean itself out. That is a cleaning process. The body bringing out mucus to relieve the body of the infection.
Yeah.
Right? But when you just stop it because you want quick relief, what you're doing is that every dose of it, in fact, there's research. Check out online. Research that shows that antibiotics is one of the biggest killers in history. You understand? So now imagine what it does to your gut health. There are antibiotics that wipe out certain gut microbiome just by you taking a dose of it. And then we have people that are on this thing every 3 months. They have ulcer. They have to take certain antibiotics.
I was about to say the same thing because every single time I go to the hospital because of my stomach issues, I get loaded with a lot of antibiotics.
But it's destroying your gut microbiome. So
it's even making the matters worse.
Exactly. Instead, you can use natural things that can actually kill that thing, that pathogen, and also restore your gut microbiome. All right. So our misuse of over-the-counter medication. And unfortunately, we are in Nigeria where you can buy it anywhere. In the US...
Even without a prescription?
No, in the US, you cannot use it. You cannot get it without a prescription. There are certain drugs that you cannot get without a prescription. But here, you don't even need a doctor's note. Mm-hmm. You just tell them, go and give me this thing. Because they prescribed it last time. It worked. Now I will take it again. And I'm like, we're killing ourselves. And that's why, unfortunately, when you destroy the integrity of your gut, you now find out that no matter what you do, you now start having frequent infections or reinfections of that thing. Now, antibiotic resistance is one of the biggest issues in Nigeria.
It is.
People are going to the hospitals, they are giving them antibiotics
and
for
it's not
things.
Working.
Yes. Now you have surgeries that you now need more stronger antibiotics just to save the person's life because they're undergoing a surgery. They've abused it, so now it won't work for what it's supposed to do. So let's save those strong medications for when our bodies really need it. There are other things. God has blessed us with natural things, and we've done it over and over again, and it works.
In healing your gut and resetting these things, what are some of the things you would say that everybody should do? Things that that we can do, like from today, as we're listening to this right now.
Drink water. Make sure you're well hydrated. Eat natural foods. All right. Thankfully we're in Jos, but even if you're in Nigeria, think about it. We have fruits. We have vegetables. We have cabbage. We have yam. We have potatoes. Eat the things that you can plant. As much as possible, stop the processed food. All right. That is one of the biggest gut disruptors. Eat the things that mono foods, that's what I call them. If it's lettuce, the ingredient here is lettuce, right? Yeah, here you can see it. But there are certain foods that when you look at the ingredient list, you can't even pronounce half of the names.
Yes.
You don't even know what they are. Even if it's a cookie that is supposed to be egg, dough, you don't know what it is. You see all sorts of names added to it. So if we just ate the things that we know, things that we can call, we can pronounce, things that we can identify.
So the first thing to do is watch what you're eating. Watch what you're eating. Is there another thing that you would advise some people to do?
Everybody, please, you need to do a parasite cleanse. The amount of parasites we see in people is alarming. All right. And parasites are not just worms. I said that before. Parasites are anything that leech on you. They steal from you. You're their host. They will not kill you, but they will steal a lot from you. All right. It affects your mood. It affects your mental health. It affects your hormones as women. It affects your ability to conceive. It affects your ability to sleep through the night. It affects children's ability to focus in school and, have better cognition in school, better memory. It affects everything. Everything. I'm talking about your longevity, everything. Sex drive, everything. So if that was the only thing you did, do a parasite cleanse and do it properly with guidance, please. That if that was the only thing you do, we've had people just do that and their symptoms begin to unravel, so many times we always start there. Start first with the parasite cleanse.
I remember one time when we were discussing, you mentioned something that I found very interesting. You said you were talking about the voice and how you can diagnose certain things, a lot of things about the person's body and the person's health just from their voice.
Yeah.
How does this even work? How does this make sense? Because that day we were talking and you said it's even more powerful than blood work. And I said, no, that's not possible.
So naturally, all right, and many people know this, blood work is measured against a statistics, right? So a statistics of quote unquote the age range, they might be healthy or not. It's just a generalization. But when we use your voice cannot lie. Your voice is your essence. Remember when the Bible says, death and life are in the power of the tongue. This work has made me understand that the Bible is so true. There's so many things that we take for granted. One of it is our voice. Your voice has the ability to tell us what's going on in your emotions, suppressed emotions, your overcompensated emotions. It has the ability to tell us what vitamins you're lacking, what nutrients you're lacking, what deficiencies you have, what parasites you have. So what we do a voice analysis. We don't do blood work analysis. And many times we tell people, if you want to do the extra step, go ahead and do a blood work and see. And many times it's accurate. It's like magic. So we do a voice analysis that shows us what nutrients you're deficient in, what foods you're sensitive to, what pathogens are in your body,
All from the voice.
all from your voice. That's why we can work with anybody anywhere, and it's really powerful. You know, there's hardly anybody that we've worked with that would say, "Oh no, that's not me." By the time they start reading out their reports, they're like, "Oh my goodness, did you read my email or something?" You know, but it helps us understand what's going on, both in the emotions and also in the physiology of that person, and then we can know, like, and that's why what we do works. Like, you can pinpoint the problem and then get an exact solution to match that. So, for example, if you're deficient in vitamin D, we'll tell you need vitamin D. You start taking vitamin D, you feel better. No guesswork. No, oh, go and do this one, go and do that one, go and try this one. No, it tells you what you need. We give you what you need. You're fine.
You had mentioned earlier about the tomatoes that you had in the US while you were living there and how you couldn't, tolerate it.
Yeah.
And then when you came back to Nigeria, you were good and fine with tomatoes. And you're not the first person I'm hearing this from. I had a friend of mine who, up until when she relocated to the US, she was good. But then she moved to the US and then all sorts of things, inflammation,
Yep.
weight gain, health issues, back and forth. And interestingly, she was sharing something. So she's a person of faith, and she said she was praying about her health issues because it took her into admission in the hospital. I think even a surgery.
Oh, wow.
And then she said God told her, check what you're eating and stay off this and stay off that, and it began to work. I also know of someone else who traveled to the US, and then by the time they were coming back, they started having certain issues with their body, swelling in certain parts and all of that. What is the food conversation across the Atlantic that makes that people begin to have certain issues, certain symptoms? And because, of course, people have to travel, is there something that they can do when they travel to prevent these issues?
Yeah, so unfortunately, and if you follow a lot of wellness gurus, you're going to find out that there's a lot of talk about, spraying pesticides on food. All right, there's like this whole thing on Roundup. Roundup is the one that kills weed, kills pests. The grains that we used to know are not the same grains that we have today.
Yes.
I've had people say, I traveled to Italy, I ate bread like a crazy person. The moment I came back to the US, I was like almost dying. So what we know is that the foods that many people have access to are very engineered. There's a lot of preservatives. There's a lot of pesticides sprayed on them. The moment you take those things, they begin to affect your body because whatever is on the food goes into you is going to have the same effect. There's a way you can wash it that, removes as much pesticides as possible, but that you need certain things, all right? So if you can eat organic, and organic food in the US is pretty expensive,
Exactly.
So your goal is, first of all, look for things that, certain products that wash out as much pesticides as possible. Secondly, if you can eat organic, eat organic. Thirdly, you need to do a heavy metal detox as often as possible. Even when I travel, that's one of the things I don't compromise for me and my children, because unfortunately, you have them wanting things that they've not had in a long time. So, we want to try this, Fine, you can try it, but now with wisdom. So we are doing a heavy metal detox, binding. There are certain protocols that we have where you take certain sprays, they bind those toxins and you excrete them out. This is very crucial, and it's even growing a whole lot now in the US because we find out that unfortunately many children are also reading with heavy metals and toxins, same thing as adults. So you find a lot of people having autoimmune diseases, people having flare-ups, people having issues with their joints, with swelling. and doctors not knowing what to do. They keep testing you. But if you don't start from the roots, again, you're just going to keep going around the circle, having misdiagnosis left, right, center.
You mentioned about a certain way to wash
Yeah.
food. And I also know that there's also a growing use of pesticides, even here in Africa as well. Now, how would you prescribe for food handling if I'm going to eat this or eat that? What's the way to wash that to ensure that I'm as safe as possible?
I would say use a lot of bicarbonate soda. All right, just soak your vegetables in it first, or do a rinse and then soak it in it for a few minutes. Let it sit well for at least 15 minutes, and then do a good rinse, and rinse with clean water, like water you can drink. Again, we have a lot of, I don't know how many people have washed their tanks in a long time. When you wash that thing, the things that you see there scary,
And that also feeds into the problems that people are facing.
Yeah. Because when you brush your teeth, you have a lot of nerve endings in your mouth. Any water you put in your mouth is going straight into your blood vessels. Like, where is it going? Right into your body.
So if the water is contaminated, then you're giving it
That's
free
why
access.
we have a big rate of, reinfections, typhoid. I treated typhoid. I still have typhoid. All right. The water we use is, first of all, to question.
Yeah.
And then if you notice our food practices, we grow our food from the ground, yes, but then we also sell it back on the ground. When we are buying it, the vegetables on the ground,
Yes.
all the dust, everybody has passed it, So take it. You can't just wash it with salt. Salt does not do nothing. All right.
I see.
White vinegar is another very good thing to soak your produce in. Soak it for about 15 minutes and let it do its work. Then you rinse it with good clean water, and you can store it in the fridge for as long as you want to use it.
By the way, I was going to ask, do you have a podcast?
Not yet.
Not yet, because I really do think that this thing should become a series. Like, we live every single day. We live doing a number of things that we don't even realize that it's killing us. Right now, I've learned today about the washing stuff with baking soda and the procedure for letting it soak for a while. But I've also learned that emotions, deep-seated emotions, can trigger certain things that you end up going to the hospital to solve, but it only is working on the symptoms and
Absolutely.
not the root cause. Now, when it comes to emotions, how does a person, is this something that someone can diagnose by themselves, or do they have to have someone who is experienced to say, okay, this and this are the emotions that you've held so tightly that have made you susceptible to this particular thing, and this is how to solve it?
So many times, unfortunately, people are not aware. All right, because if you're holding on to an emotion that is destroying you quickly let it go.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, and that's why we have suppressed emotions.
Yeah.
So many times people are not aware of what they're holding on to. Let me give you an example. I worked with a girl in the US, and the first time, now she presents as a very strong female, entrepreneurial, very go-getter person. But the first time I did her scan, I was like, your scan, your voice scan is presenting certain symptoms. I read it out to her. One of them was an emotion of bereavement. And she was like, I've not lost anybody, But when she thought about it, she's like, oh my God, my grandma was like a mother to me. And when she died, I never grieved her. Right? Now, that emotion has been holding itself in her body because, again, especially many Nigerians, you're told, hey, Yahakuri, don't cry. Just keep going. You be strong.
Yeah.
And when you don't process these emotions, they get stuck in you. But then they don't just stay there. They're looking for a way to express themselves. So eventually, sometimes they come and then they become a form of dis-ease. They manifest themselves as a form of dis-ease. So something goes awry in the body. The body's like, I need to let this thing out. All right. And I remember that day, we were on Zoom and we were talking with her, and she called her husband and she just started weeping. She started crying. She's like, I knew it. I knew there was something. And we talked and talked and talked. There were other things that came up, but that was one of the. At first she was like, I've not lost anybody. However, when she was 15, she lost her grandma, and she never grieved that emotion. So you can just imagine, like, that's one of the things that we see. For some people, it's like I remember one of the first times, in fact, this one was in my house when I still didn't have an office space. And one of the first clients I had, that my husband was like, honey, you need to get an office space. We can't keep having strangers crying in your house. I had a friend brought her friend. And when this person came, when I did his voice scan, he was like, the first thing that came up was, a loss of attachment with your father. And the guy is like, Now, in fact, honestly, his father was very harsh when they were growing up. And I was like, oh, but this guy has had back pain and had other issues for a very long time. Not sleeping, so many issues. So we worked on it, and that was the first emotion that came up. And then the second thing was that, there was somebody in his life that was an authority figure that had abused him. So I was like, what does that mean to you? And the guy just broke down crying. He's like, my boss. In fact, even if I see that guy, I will run over him with a car. Even if he had an accident, I would use my car and smash him. Imagine that kind of pent-up emotion. Now, many people are going around with things like this, and then they're having migraines, they're having stomach upsets, you're having issues, and you keep taking medication, but the medication is not doing it.
Root cause. Like, my mind is playing a lot of flashbacks, and I'm thinking about certain emotions at certain times, right? And even certain people I've interacted with that maybe some of these emotions have led to some of the things that they are currently experiencing right now. One thing I had kept in my mind to made a note of to talk about is we're seeing a rise of PCOS cases with a lot of young ladies. Like almost every other week, I'm hearing, this person has this case and that person has all of that. What would you say? Is it something that has always been there, and we're just only finding out because of technology and advancement in science, or is there something that has become the root cause? And on the heels of that, if somebody who was recently diagnosed with PCOS or who has been living with it for a few years now is watching this, what are some of the practical things you'll tell them from a holistic perspective on how to approach this particular situation?
Awesome. So, you see, one of the things that I always call people's attention to, I'm like, it's not just PCOS, we also have fibroids.
Yes, a lot,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you have a lot of young ladies nowadays. We have a lot of young ladies nowadays that have fibroids. You have a lot of young ladies that are having fibroid surgeries, but the fibroids are coming back. Why? Same thing as PCOS. So PCOS has been there. It's just that now many more people are having it or are being diagnosed with it. What is going on? Again, your environment, what you put on your body, what you put in your body. You cannot separate. Your skin is an organ. You understand? What you put on your body disrupts your hormones. We have a lot of research now that shows that deodorants disrupt your hormones. Perfumes disrupt your hormones. The spices we use to cook disrupt your hormones. The things we drink out of, the things we cook or store our food in, plastics, lot of microplastics disrupt your hormones. So you have a lot of girls and that's why, pay attention to this. You have a lot of young girls that are blooming very early as well. So that's a lot of hormonal disruption from a very early age. So your goal is reduce the amount of toxicities your body can be exposed to on any given day. For women, they say that first of all, the things that we put on our bodies, we're exposed to at least 97 different microtoxins daily, from lipsticks to eyebrow to everything.
Yeah.
You understand? Nails, everything. If you think about it, many of these things you don't even know how they make them. Your nail polish has formaldehyde in it. Formaldehyde is used to bury dead, is what they use for embalmment.
Yes.
So imagine what it's doing to your body. In the past, our mothers did not always paint their nails, isn't it? So we didn't have that much issues. Now you have a lot more environmental toxins.
Yes.
You have environmental, but then there was no Wi-Fi. Now there's Wi-Fi. You don't know what Wi-Fi does to the body. Like, there's a lot of signals jamming every area. So your goal is, as much as possible, reduce the toxins in your body. Reduce what you put in that are toxic. Reduce what you put on your body, in your body that are toxic. Your body will have a better chance at surviving and healing itself. All right? Clean your body. In fact, there are many women that we've worked with fibroids. They do a parasite cleanse and the fibroid shrinks. Parasites are toxins. They also emit toxins. So again, it's just like doing a nice, beautiful clean of your house.
Yeah.
All right? Do that and you find out that you feel better. Your body will respond better.
So all of these things, it's interesting how so many we live in, because of how we are as human beings living in this active world, a lot of things around us affect us. So now I'm hearing the things we put on, even perfumes. So we should say bye-bye to perfumes. You don't want to answer that.
I'm not. I don't want to break people's.
Because I also noticed, not just with a few people that I know personally who have these reoccurring reactions with deodorant, and then it leads to like underarm boils that are impossible.
Thank you. I love that you said that because, again, think about it. What are you putting in your body? Your skin is an organ. Your skin is an organ. Anything you put in your skin goes straight into the body. It goes into your bloodstream. It goes to your liver. What are you doing? And if your body, like a beautiful house, like I started with, if your body doesn't have the ability to detoxify properly, your body will have to bring it out one way or the other. And that's why your armpit is also a detox channel, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're clogging that detox channel, what are you doing? It's just like you have a trash can that is full and you just keep covering it and hoping that it won't stink or hoping that, maggots won't grow inside. Yeah. It's not going to work.
Yeah. How has running this business, right, this holistic health business and interacting with the clients that you interact with, how has it changed your perception and your mindset and your perspective as an individual?
For the longest time, I knew that the body was powerful, but now I've seen that the body is super powerful. We've had people come back from serious issues like cancers. We've had people come back from, kidney failures. We've had people heal from diabetes, and what we're doing is just basically cleaning out the body and allowing the body to do what it's doing. Like that, for me, that is powerful. You're not going for any surgeries. They're not cutting off your breast. One of the first clients that made me understand, look, what you're doing, girl, is powerful. She was scheduled for surgery to have a mastectomy. And when she came, her breast was painful and hard. When you touched it, it was hard. We started doing a detox on her and we started doing our therapy on her. By the third week, we noticed that the lump had shrunk so well that you could just feel where the lump was. By the 6th week, the lump was no more. She went back to her doctor and the doctor said, you don't need any surgery, you're fine. So this is the kind of testimonials that we have. It's not that we're doing any magic. We're basically just clean your body the right way. Like we're telling you what your body needs, you're doing it, and your body is responding. Your body is super powerful. Like God, this body, people, they're still trying to understand every facet of the body. You understand? Your brain is powerful. Your body is powerful. So if your body is not responding the way you want it to, then you need to find out what is offline and bring it back online, and the body will respond.
What would you say is one of the hardest or most challenging cases that you've handled?
Some of them are cancerous cases. Yeah. And unfortunately, many times family is involved, heavily involved, because there's a lot of fear around it.
Of course.
And the way I see it, I see it as the body is just screaming out in one way, form, or shape or the other. I need help, right? But when family is highly involved, there's so much that you can do. So you just do your part, they do their part, and many times, you want to respect everything. But those are the hardest ones we've seen, where somebody comes in, they don't follow through because they're afraid. And by the time you know it, it spreads or it metastasizes or it becomes even worse. But other than that, even those people that came in with cancerous issues, the moment they start to work on their bodies, if they follow through, if they are the decision makers, forget it. Their response rate is a lot quicker. Again, cancer is a love language to the body. I see disease as a love language. Yes, I see disease as a love language to the body. The body is just saying there's something going on here and I need help. Pain is a love language to the body, but if you take it as a disease, then you would treat it as something, an invader or something. But if you understand what the body is trying to say, what the body is trying to get rid of, you can easily get rid of it without too much hassle.
It's an interesting perspective. Pain is a love language to the body. I've never heard anything like that.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't find ways to kill pain.
Find out what the body's saying.
We should find out how the body.
Root cause. Always.
Well, this root cause thing, we're still coming back. We're still coming back to it. Now, as an individual running this business, and interacting with all of these clients, how do you? I'm sure that of course, you're doing this thing from your heart because it's also, you see this as service and help. You've come through your own emotional season, your own trying season, and then this is you also offering the help that you've discovered while you were going through your own challenges. But how do you stay sane in the midst of all of these cases? And because a lot of them will have more emotional pull than others, and you're deeply involved in trying to see the best for this person. How do you stay sane in your head, especially through maybe the person goes and then does something and then it comes back with a worse case than the last time they went, and you're like, why did you do this like this? But we agreed. We agreed that you should stay off this thing for this number of weeks. Why did you go back and now you have it? How do you stay sane in the midst of it all?
So first of all, I also have my own therapist. No, you need it. Like, it's just foolish not to have someone that you can also offload on. All right. So I also have somebody that I talk to. Self-care is like a big thing for me. All right. I also know my strength and my weakness. I know my boundaries. But then I also have a team of people that work with me. So I'm not doing this alone. Sometimes we had someone that came but went somewhere else, maybe because he thought our therapy was not working as fast as he wanted to. Unfortunately, the guy died.
Oh, wow.
And when I heard that he died, it hit me because I was like, there's no how. You have had interactions with that person. And I was like, oh my goodness, why? We talk about it as a team. We take self-care days if you need to. It's pretty important because you can't serve from an empty cup. Yeah. You can't. There are days that I block out and I'm home and I'm just there resting, not doing anything. I also have my own, kind of a supervisor that I work with. Yeah, self-care is pretty key. I remember when I started, I used to still have flare-ups really bad. And I would work with one client one day, and after that I'm drained for 5 days. But now I'm so into, like, I know how to protect my own space. I know how to protect my own shield, all right, my person. So when you come to me, your problem is your problem. I'm not going to enter into your problem and see myself. The moment you do that, forget it. There's transference. There are people there are times that we've worked with a client that had leg pain. By the time the client went, we both had leg pain. So you have to learn to protect your, because there's something called quantum entanglement, right?
Oh, I see.
So you enter into somebody's space and you carry their symptom. I've learned not to do that. Like, it's one of the things that they teach you when you're working as a holistic practitioner, especially when you're working in energy medicine. You need to learn to protect that client is their client. You shield your body from their issues. So when they come, you are very, will I say objective or subjective? When they're done, you learn how to shut down that session and move to the next person. It's part of the training.
I think it's an important part of the training because otherwise
You will burn out.
You will burn out.
Yeah.
You will definitely burn out. Now, where do you see? What is the vision for the future for Mays Holistic Health? Where do you see Mays Holistic Health going to in the next few years?
I love that. I see us, first of all, I see us having other branches around Nigeria.
Oh, great.
So that we can offer the same services, especially the in-person services, because we work virtually with people everywhere. But I also see us like having the kind of success that we can say, okay, you know what? If it's breast cancer, you come and you do A, B, C, D by week 6. Those kind of split results that you can, measurable results that you can say, you know what? In 6 weeks, we can guarantee that this is gone. And that's because, again, at first I never took anybody with cancer. Now we can do that because we have experience. We have more tools, and some of those tools are pretty darn expensive.
Of course.
But having them has been very helpful, in helping different kinds of people with different kinds of things. We've helped people with stroke, and they begin to walk again, like all sorts. So my goal is that we'll keep investing, but we'll keep expanding our reach to other states so that other people can benefit from the in-person services that we have.
Amazing. And if there was one thing that you would like to change about how Africans approach health, around how Nigerians, Africans in general, approach health, what would it be?
I would say we love to copy the West, right? Learn from their mistakes, not just their successes. I mean, the rate of obesity abroad is all over the roof.
Yes.
So learn from that. We don't need more fast foods. We need more whole foods. And we grow our own foods. Let's not downplay the power that Africa is. We have a client of ours that buys our bitter leaf capsules. He buys them in 10s. He'll buy 10 sets and travel, 10 sets. Anytime he's in the country, he's buying them and going. Why? Because what we have natural things that, work. In homeopathy, they say like cures like. So we have the things in our region that are unique to our body, our blood type, we need to explore that. We need to use that. The foreigners, they do a lot of research. We are not a very research-oriented people. We need to research on the things that we have. Because if I go outside and I show you a few things, you'll be surprised what they do and how they help is with such and such and such, So I would say if there's one thing we need, that's one. We need to research. We need to trust our own things. We need to trust what God has given us in our own land to do the work that, we need for our bodies.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And finally, what for someone who is listening here and is going through a personal crisis or an illness or a very really tough time health wise, what would you say to them?
reach out. Don't do this on your own. We're a community, we're a village. We're not meant to suffer in silence. We're not meant to walk through the hard times alone. So reach out to us. Let us know what you're dealing with. If we can't help you, we'll refer you out. But many times we can help, even if it's just doing the emotional aspect, and then you bouncing back to know that what life is worth fighting for. So reach out. There's you're not at the end of your rope yet. As long as you have breath in your body, something good can come out of you. So reach out. Don't suffer in silence.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I have one request, and my request will be: I think that you should talk about these things much more. I'm looking forward to having you back here, some other time, so that we can actually even talk about some of the other things in terms of some of the physical products that you guys have. But I'm also looking forward to seeing Mays tell us. You just said you can take us outside and show us things that and tell us what they're used for. I would really love to see stuff like that, because I feel like, just like me, a lot of people who are listening to this are really genuinely concerned about their health, and I think now more than ever before, we're having more people try to pay attention to their health, but a lot of people are also doing it the wrong way. They are not really sure how to go about it, especially the conventional versus the holistic in that sense. And it'll be really great to have more information coming out from Mays Wholistic Health, coming out from you on the very simple everyday things that we can do. But one last thing before we go, I would like to, so there's almost what they call like maybe the big three or the big four. I don't even know how to call them now, but they're almost always like hand in hand. Diabetes, high blood pressure, arthritis of various sorts. There's one more that I'm trying to remember now. When I can't remember it. But would you say that if you're looking at the root cause for these ones, where we should actually go to the gut?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, diabetes is a metabolic disease, as well as many arthritis as well. Yeah, it starts from the gut health. If your gut health is compromised, your immune system is compromised.
Yeah.
All right. So they say arthritis is old people's disease.
Yeah, because nowadays, there's nothing that's old people's disease
you're
any
34
longer.
and you're having issues.
There's nothing that's
it's all
the age range has been dropping.
Yeah.
Before you would say, oh, the person was 70, 80, and so they had that thing. But now you're seeing it in 20-year-olds.
Yep. It's all inflammation in the body, and it starts from the gut. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
This was a beautiful conversation. I enjoyed every bit of it. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for listening in. I'd love to read some of your comments. I'd love to engage with you. If you have any questions, thoughts, about today's episode, please leave them in the comment section. We'll leave details of how to reach out to her also in the comment in the description as well. But please, if you're leaving from this episode with anything at all, pay attention to what you're consuming. Pay attention to what's going into your mouth. Right. And I will see you in the very next episode. Do take care.